my back because I laid on the couch wrong from when I started. Something about like the perspective it gave me that was like, I don't think this is the right way. You know, I think I can do a little bit more. And it's so easy to get sucked into the bubbles in the systems and like the language and perspectives of others.
Tell me what life was like before you started with us.
Man. Well, I mean, I think what I always tell folks, I think when I did my intake was, you know, what brought me here? Probably the summer before I started with you all, I threw out my back. And I threw out my back, not like doing anything, lifting anything. I threw out my back because I laid on the couch wrong because I was so immobile in the sense that since the pandemic, you know, it's like very much an office job, what I do, unless I'm out in the field facility working with folks. And even then, like, you're sitting a lot and you're sitting doing kind of this thing a lot. And I had kept up running at least because I was never kind of like in high school active or you would say exceptionally fit or anything like that. And then in my late 20s, I kind of like got a cold that I couldn't get rid of. And I was like, maybe I should think about my health. And then I started training. I worked with a trainer.
Yep.
I got healthier. I started running, swimming, doing things like that. And then I kind of kept up at least with the running and some of those things. So I felt pretty good and up until the pandemic where kind of all that stopped and my work got really busy and it became very much sitting in an office in a room in my house, you know, my apartment and then in my house. And so I guess all of that had just created this condition where not only was I vulnerable to like, I wasn't mobile. So I threw out my back. I had like these back spasms literally because I was in a bad chair sitting. Ergonomics, all of that. And I remember thinking after my dramatic, like, is this how it's going to feel for the rest of my life? Like, will I ever be able to, you know, not have pain or whatever? I remember like several months later, after I had to tell my team, oh, you threw out your back, what happened? I sat on my couch. I ended up taking my mom to a trip. My sister married an Italian, so she lives in Italy, and so we go a lot to visit. And I took my mom, and we were taking all these pictures of the Vatican, and I was like, oh, my face is a little bit different than what I remember. And I think it was then that I said, I'm going to start slowly trying to run again. So I'm going to do walk runs. I'm going to do that. And when I can run a full mile without stopping, I'm going to join a gym or do something or get a train. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do that because I need to get healthier. And I was, I had these rashes because I had so much stress. My job was very stressful at the time. And like, why did I have these rashes? I mean, I knew it was all connected. I had a background in like health in the sense of like, I knew it was all connected to my lifestyle. And so finally I was able to do like between a 12 or 13 minute mile, something ridiculous. And I was like, okay, let me just find a gym now. And then when I think we talked for the first time and I was like, well, I used to run. I'd love to get to like a 10-ish minute mile. Like, and then when I said 10, I really meant like 10:50. like that was what it was like my motivation. So I think it was just like a lot of imbalance in terms of work, in terms of life, recreation. I wasn't doing a lot of stuff. So, I think that's what kind of led me to, that was what my life was like.
So you basically were...
I was going to say, my favorite story of working with Anna, the first few weeks was like, all right, Anna, your goal is to take a lunch 2 times this week because you were so stressed.
Yeah.
And I remember putting it in your program and be like, okay, you're just going to mark it off if you took it. But like, that's the state where you were, was like, you weren't even taking lunches. Like, you were like, literally your goal is to have 2 lunches.
Yeah.
during the week.
It was like, eat something for breakfast. Like at that stage, it was just like something, because I would go, like I'd have my coffee, I'd have maybe like some grapefruit juice, and like throughout the day I might have more juice because it was something easy that I could have between calls or whatever, or grab real quick. But I would go and it's like 3:00 and I have not really eaten anything. And it wasn't like intentional. I'm trying to starve. It was just literally the pace of my life, the order of how I carried out my day and work was just so off that it took like, okay, no, you need to eat a lunch and it needs to look like this and for these reasons. And slowly building some new habits.
So what was your goal when you started?
It was that I wanted to like fit into my regular pants, not like, like lose a ton, but just
not
like
the pandemic pants.
Not my pandemic pants. I just wanted, you know what? Even if I fit better in my pandemic pants, I think that would have been a win at the time. I wanted to like get better at running because it was such a stress reliever throughout most of, the time since I started, that path, and I didn't have that anymore. And so it was like, and I couldn't just go out and run without, in the way that I used to. And so I was kind of like, I just want to get back towards something doable, like 10 to 11 minute mile. And that was it. That was really my goal. Like, I didn't think about any of the other stuff, like the food. I just thought I will do what you all guide me to, because I had experienced results doing that way, just trusting a coach and like following a program. And so,
was there any nervousness when you started?
I mean, I think the CrossFit thing, I will just say that. Yeah. I told a friend when I first started, I'm joining this gym. It's CrossFit, and because it always triggers like, it's like, because it's so community-based.
You're crazy. This
like,
is a cult.
You're going to join the cult, And I was like, yes, I have joined the cult. The cult is going to help me get, more. I'll let you all know how it goes. And so there was a little bit of like weights, lifting, that kind of normal thing. It wasn't like I hadn't done that before, but I think it was elevated here. And I think, you're going into a new space, you don't know anyone. I think I was always it was very welcoming for it being so different. Yeah. So I would say, there was definitely some initial nervousness, not about doing the things, but just being in a new space, new people.
How long did it take for you to feel comfortable?
Not very long, I have to say. Okay. Not very long. I mean, I started at 7 a.m. I mean, I think we connected pretty quickly. I felt like pretty comfortable with you. So I could share kind of like, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing. Like, I think in the gym, I mean, you have these coaches who have they're all super different and they all help you in very different ways, but it felt very authentic. They were just like you got a sense of their personalities. So I'm in 7 a.m. with Coach Katie. I remember because it was really great to come in as a new person, with those natural nervousness. But I think what's really infectious is when folks really like what they do. Yeah. Like at the ambulance company that I work for, their motto and how they distinguish themselves from kind of the other ambulance services, AMR, and there's like, attitude makes a difference. It was part of their mission statement. And so when I don't know if you remember this commercial where it was like, it's a long time ago, and it was this guy, and he was a dentist, and he was presenting in front of like a bunch of dentists, and he's like, today we're going to talk about teeth, and everybody's like, and it was like,
that sounds like Katie.
And I just like, when I remember she was doing her thing and her natural flow, and it reminded me of when I was teaching like sophomores. It's like after lunch, they're 15 and you're teaching English, and so you're like, I'd be like, today we're going to talk about English, and they would get a kick out of the excitement. So I would really I think it was really infectious. And so even though I would be like, well, I can't lift that. No way. I mean, it was kind of the ongoing joke in the 7 a.m. cohort where they're like, oh yeah, Anna's going to think she can't lift it. And then she's going to lift like twice that. So that really helped. I think the coaching, the community, the motivation, like, even doing that lift off that first year, when I hadn't been here that long, and
you'd been here. But you started in March, and then we had the lift off in August.
Because I had left for a month because I went out abroad. When I was changing jobs and trying to figure out what the heck to do. How do I change my life to be more conducive of the things that I want to do and the experiences I want to have? And so I had just come back, and I was starting to get back into it, and the girls were like, you're doing liftoff with us. Like, no questions. And I'm like, okay.
That's so good. When did you start seeing progress? How long did it take?
I started seeing progress, I think, pretty quickly in terms of like after that first month, I felt different. I think it was weird because progress in different ways. I mean, like the stuff I would talk to you about, sometimes was about like the number, like what I was doing in the gym, what felt easier, whatever. But a lot of the stuff I was talking to you about was just like, I can't maintain this. Like the only way that I can describe it is every month that I stayed, like I was doing this stuff, I got clearer. Like my head, I just got more clear about things that I think I was like struggling with, or, well, let me try this, or let me keep trying to make this thing work
outside of the gym.
Of the gym. Yeah. And so when I think I realized, like even just that example you gave about like the food goals, like why do I have food goals? Like why can't I eat like regularly? What is it in my life? And so then just it just helped me get a different perspective on, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want my days to look like? And realistically, what kinds of big picture changes? And that was probably the biggest thing. Like I need to change some things, and it wasn't scary as scary, I should say, because I was doing all of these other things. So it made sense. Yeah. And I think there was a lot of that clarity of like, oh, no, I'm feeling progress physically. I'm feeling progress. I'm feeling clearer. And then I just started making choices. And so I would say there was like a period where you could physically see the change.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like, I started seeing some of those results right before I left. And I think that's where it was like, I had other challenges where it was like, I was maybe pushing myself a little bit and not like stretching and doing those things. So I'm like, oh, I hit my knee, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, like I can't run. So what does that mean? And, and just working through all of that, I think, when I left for that month really set me up, because even though I was gone, I was also in a place where I had the habit of running and being active because I had lived there. And when I lived there, it was a big part of my life. So I just slowly rehabbed myself back into things and just thought like, okay, when I come back, I'm going to continue doing this. And when I did come back, I felt I didn't lose any progress. In fact, I felt a little bit stronger. And by that point, I had made these other changes in my life.
Yeah. I feel like there was definitely a catalyst, and I also got to witness like this transformation of like Anna when you first came versus like even Anna before you went on your trip. So you started in March, and you went on your trip in June, and just like seeing how making small changes gave you so much agency, where it was like, oh, I don't have to do this. Like I have choice of like having lunch or being able to end my workday or making time to go run a mile. Yeah. And like, it's incredible because you've gone from like making time to running 1 mile to now training for a marathon.
Yeah, for sure.
That was kind of my follow-up to this, is like, it sounds like you made a bunch of small changes. It wasn't like you had to like give up everything on day one.
No.
You sort of made it a part of your life, and then gradually you started seeing progress, and you're kind of like, wonder if I go further into this, what would that look like? Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was reinforced in my time with the cohort, because when I'd come into the cohort, I would just, like Coach Katie would be like, you got more in the tank. Like, you can do more. I'm like, I don't know. And, all that hesitancy. And then, the folks I was working with, it's like, yeah, you can do it. There's like that motivational element where, and they, and you're working with folks and they're all making changes and little things. And so I think I would have these like it was a really great way to start the day is what I remember. I would start the day that way. I was being pretty consistent about like making sure that I made my classes, and then I'd start my work day. And I think when I had that, it was like making those changes, feeling the progress. And then again, something about like the perspective it gave me that was like, I don't think this is the right way. I think I can do a little bit more. And so then I just started making more incremental choices. And I think because I had done that, when it was time to say, okay, there's a bigger choice I'm going to need to make, what does that look like? I just felt more empowered, and like I had things to rely on, so that it wasn't like I'm going to make this big drastic change and I'm not equipped to do it, you know?
So I want to run through really quick. You've made a ton of progress inside the gym.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go through what I see.
Okay.
And you tell me what you see. And then I want
Sure.
to talk more about what you've done outside of the gym, because that's actually more interesting. So just looking at this, you've lost 4% body fat, 16 pounds of fat since you started. You were stronger. Yes. your visceral fat level went down by 3 levels, so you're healthier. Looking at your strength numbers, so you added 90 pounds to your back squat, you added 90 pounds to your deadlift, basically front squat, like on every measurable thing you've gotten stronger and even faster. You're faster on your row, you're faster on your mile, right? You what'd you say, 13 something or other?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. What did you do today? It was somewhere around 10 something, right?
It was just under 10.
Just under 10.
Yeah,
So that was, was that your fastest?
Here,
Yeah.
I think I've done faster in the
Track
training and the
Yeah,
track.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you're under 10 minutes, right, on the mile. So you've gotten stronger, you've gotten faster, you've lost weight. What is the thing that you are most proud of that you've accomplished physically?
Physically, well, I don't have back pain, so I'm not afraid
That's
I'm going to
solid.
throw out my back, which is a really big deal. I don't know. I mean, like, I think the biggest thing that I feel great about is when I'm running, it's not like it's just about running. Like when I started to feel more like confident in my running was more of I was stronger. So I could hold my form longer.
Yeah.
You know, and that came from the gym stuff. You know, you can run and the practice certainly helps with like putting it all together. But from when I started, you know, like just what my body can do and how long I can maintain that really just came back to a lot of the things I was doing at the gym and what parts of my body just were more stable and strong and the confidence, I think too, where I didn't feel like I had to push my body like super crazy. It became more normalized, like those even just the pushing incrementally. So
And you're only coming like 3 times a week, 4 times a week at most. Yeah.
yeah, and right now even less because I'm doing more running. But I was coming. I mean, I think there was a time right around when I came back, and then my projects hadn't started right away. So I had like maybe like 4 weeks where I was like, I can come to gym all the time. I can do all this stuff. That was great. And it was great because it helped me start my day. It like you get a lot of energy, you know, yes, you deplete it for like a second, but it does give you a lot of energy. So I would have like it was just a great way to start my day when I didn't have the same structure that I had before.
Yeah.
And so, I started feeling all those things, but I would say like there was a moment in one of my runs where it just didn't feel hard like it had. And, you know, there was, you know, you have these little like Nike coaching or whatever. Sometimes I'll put them on just to like, you know, pass the time. They'll just jump in and it helps me like, oh yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the guys was like, take a moment and just like appreciate what your body's doing right now. And I was like one of those things where I was like really, you know, in a comfortable space. And I was like, whoa, like look at what my body's doing. Like this is really cool. And I think that was one of the biggest like, okay, I feel really good about this. Like this feels right.
Yeah. It's funny when you watch people running, they're usually one of 2 camps. Either they look like a professional or they look like they hate every second of it. Right? So you're going,
they're not smiling.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Whereas
going
I
to
was like,
But sometimes it's like, I think I look like that, but I don't.
that's true.
Yeah. Coach, what physical accomplishment are you most proud of for Anna?
Oh, that's a good question. You're running. Like when we first started, your goal was to like run a mile in 10 minutes from like 13 minutes to 10 minutes. And you did that. And then you were like your big, hairy, audacious goal was like, maybe I could do a half marathon. But it seemed like you're like, it's probably not going to happen. It's like a pie in the sky dream.
Yeah.
And then you did it.
Yeah.
And then you did it. So and that was within a year of starting. So within a year you were doing a half marathon. And now you're moving on to a full marathon because you're like, oh, I can do a half marathon. I'm not one of those people. I'm not like going to do a full marathon. And here you are. Training for a full marathon.
Oh yeah, I definitely never thought I was gonna be one of those people. marathon. Yeah.
Okay, so just give me like a list, bullet points of what changes you've noticed outside of the gym that have nothing to do with health and fitness.
I mean, I suppose that I was in a role before at work that was like a leadership role. And, you know, I worked for this group when I started with them. I'd worked with them for like 7 years. So I had been there for a while. And when I started with them, I just moved back from living in Europe. I was just trying to settle into a space. I didn't really know how long I would be with them. I started as an analyst, you know, not in any leadership role. And then I, through a course of events, ended up being able to build an office, build a team. I think my team was there was maybe 5 of us in the office when we first started, and they wanted a California presence. And by the time I left, we were 22. We had done all of these, you know, things in the state. And I think I was kind of buried in a lot of that. So and then you just you're in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
And so I just was more thinking, prioritizing like this thing within this bubble and this context that I was doing. And so a lot of my stresses were basically grounded in that. And then when I left and I took this huge leap, and of course I had done that before. Like I said, I used to be a teacher. I had done all these things. And so my parents were more like, we trust you. We don't understand what you're doing, but like, you know, you'll be fine. Like, okay, Mija, like, you know, good job. But, you know, now, I mean, I was laughing just even as we were setting up, I got this email. Now, like, I didn't realize people wanted to, and I don't mean it like people want to work with me. I mean, like, this
you started to notice it.
I started to notice it. Yeah. And I even have folks actually telling me like, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, even yesterday I was talking to someone else that I had worked with, and we're, you know, this and that. And she was like, of course, you know, and I'm like and I'm not looking for work. And I say this with like humility because it's really hard to make it in the economy sometimes. But the things that I'm seeing now are showing me and kind of putting a spotlight on things that maybe I hadn't been paying attention to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm like getting recruited for things. I was telling you, I was like, oh, I'm getting recruited for this. They're giving me like all the platter of stuff, you know, this guy that I talked to, like almost I don't know, maybe in July or something, he's like a union. It was wanted to steelworkers union guy, national. And he was like, oh, I have this idea for, you know, this thing on the oil and gas Anyway, he pitched me this whole thing and gave him some advice. Never, you know, thought whatever, like I'm happy to give advice. He's like, oh, so we got that thing where it's like $8 million and we could use your help to do, you know. And so to be able to see like that there was always opportunities in front of me and I had more control and power than I had thought of for a lot of reasons. But I think a lot of it is just I was so it's so easy to get sucked into the bubbles in the systems and like the language and perspectives of others. Yeah. You know?
And it's sort of the same thing. It's like you started to see areas where you had more control and that just started to bleed into to everything else.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So yeah, it surprised me a lot, I think, and sometimes it still surprises me. But it's just it's a helpful reminder of, you know, if I'm feeling good and if I'm doing these things, like that's the best thing I can do for myself in order to be able to navigate whatever may come my way, good and bad. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of that has come from the confluence of how all these little things end up coming together. So it's not like one big thing. It's like a lot of little things and a lot of little things stacking up and kind of creating the conditions for the bigger stuff to happen.
Yeah. Write that one down, Esther. That was good. So, okay, what advice do you have for someone like you over a year ago before you started who was thinking about stepping into a place like this?
Don't be afraid. I know it, you know, don't think it's a bad cult. It's a good one. No, I mean, I think the thing that I was pleasantly surprised on was like the community piece and how much you're just able to share space with really cool folks with a lot of different backgrounds, of all ages. and they're inspiring. Like they're super inspiring. So like the fear or the anxiety or even the don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, I think one thing that I tend to struggle with is like, okay, I want to do something and then some setback gets in the way. Like I missed a workout or I hurt my knee or, you know, I'm overwhelmed at work. And it's like, that's okay. Like, it's okay that you missed that workout, that, hey, work out hard and it kind of messed with the flow of what you were supposed to do. But like, it just messed with the flow of what you were supposed to do for this day or this week. Like, you can change it. And that is probably the best thing that I took from at the beginning, being able to be in this space, being able to be a part of the community. But yeah, I would say like, just try it out. Like the community is really fun. You'll be surprised at how quickly you will start prioritizing things that you didn't before.
I love that. What's next for you?
I don't know. I'm running this marathon in July. Yeah, I mean, so right now I'm running this marathon in July. I think in my life, I have some decisions to make about some great opportunities that have come my way. But I'm in charge now. Either way, whether I do X, Y, or Z, like I feel like I'm definitely in the driver's seat more than I had been. But I don't know, like even a couple months ago, I would say in January when you had asked, okay, what's next? So you met that goal, and I'm very goal oriented apparently. Like,
yeah.
So she's like, and what's next? And she's like, is it a triathlon? Is it a marathon? Is it a this? And I remember when you said marathon, I was like, no way, no freaking way.
I remember you shut that down real quick.
I was like, why does she keep putting that marathon back in there? And I was like, maybe I'll do a triathlon. And then I was like, ooh, but the water and what lies beneath. Am I going to be able to do that? So I don't know. I'm not ruling it out. But yeah, I think I want to do this marathon. I'm going to do this marathon. I feel much more confident about that being a reality. And what's next after that, I don't know, but it'll be fun to figure that out with y'all.
Yeah, that's so great. You know, it's funny you mentioned the community and like, you know, being inspired. I've been really inspired by our conversation today.
Oh,
and I love that you just, you know, you ask questions and you kind of go after what you want and you're willing to take the risk to do it. And I mean, it's only been a little more than a year since you've been here. I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Oh, thank you. It'll be fun. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Anna, I appreciate you.
Oh, appreciate
Thanks
you
for doing this.
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. We'll see you all next time.
All right.
Bye,
everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we've got plenty of others. Go check out this one over here.